How are you? Good. First and foremost, I want to thank Jessica for inviting me to be here, to Annalie, I don't know where she is now. There she is. And of course, Peter, Lina, who were somewhere here, they have been amazing hosts, and this has been wonderful. I mean, there is a lot to this gathering that people doesn't see in the screen. Fascinating event and weekend. My presentation today will draw from a series of dialogues that I have had with artists over the year, but I thought to bring a specific case to the forum today because I felt the need at the platform, and because during the whole weekend we have been talking about things that I believe they have been doing for 20 years, and this is the case of recetas urbanas. And I will talk a little bit about part of a conversation that my colleague Raúl Muñoz de la Vega and myself illustrated in a recent book on this collective recetas urbanas. But I want to take this opportunity as well I'm going to see myself. I'm trying to, yeah, good. I want to take this.
Y demás. Cuando vienes y vives que bueno, que somos nosotros con nuestras propias manos los que estamos construyendo esto, pues la verdad es que es muy gratificante.
Será esto exitoso en la medida que, aparte de comedor, realmente funcione como un aula de convivencia. Y en eso supongo que son las familias las que deben de activarlo, ¿no?
Use legality or build jurisprudence is, according to Muñoz de la Vega, the accumulation of precedents functions as a proof of how alternative sections are feasible and effective when facing the mistrust of the bureaucratic culture, no? And so often prevails in public administration. And the other so are the antidote to overcome conformism, but also the sort of like the laziness that as citizens we sometimes have. No? So I see these induced legality or build jurisprudence, as you can see in the example, and I'm gonna just click as we go along so you see some of the other projects they have done. You see in this almost like a limitless form of subversion, which allow the capacity to be adapted to a new context, determining not only the outcome itself, but the conditions that made that outcome possible. No? The conditions also, the repertoire, a set of rules, a manual, a recipe, right? To represent a real statement of difference in the way that I was mentioning earlier in relation to the differential space. It's a sort of veiled human revolution, bringing together a group of individuals by managing hopes and desire to disrupt administrative policies that perhaps create confined spaces where they can operate. This formulation of affection as a political act established a network of affective relationship as a form of subversive architecture. Maybe, from my point of view, the most important intervention of the studio in the architectural and artistic field, but most of all in social politics. It comes to mind certain projects that we have seen here as what the sociologist Adumali Simon call people as infrastructure, right? How cities becomes more productive and effective spaces as a result of the social relationship taking place in them. In his view, these social practices, political, economic, environmental, are fundamental to social capacity to plan a different agency in the set of the new transformation of the urban space we all live in. And I'm showing you some of the images of other projects. I don't want to have time to show you other videos. I just want you to get a glimpse of what it means to produce with them. You have seen that in many cases they work with volunteers. They normally the architecture that they produce is claimed by the user, but in the process of production, many other people from around the world come to the studio. This is part of a project that we did together during the JIPCA biennial in 2014. And you can see how the togetherness, the capacity of being together, the capacity to celebrate together, the music, the laughter, the drinks, as I said earlier, are fundamental in order for them to produce their work. This is the interior of the space. While I was thinking in the work that they did, I was reminded of something very important in a research that I did around Laboratoire Guitar, which is an artist collective that operates in Senegal in the 1970s. The collective will produce a lot of projects in the public space, and they want to transform what it meant to work in theater, not to operate between theater and the ritual in the public space of the city of Dakar. Imagine this is 1970s. And they realized that their artistic form, their theatrical form, could develop in any place, in whatever space was available. The condition for the actions to occur was just not an infrastructure in itself, was everybody's bodies, right? So this idea of people as infrastructure, this idea of the body as the carrier, the necessary theater, they will say, it was necessary to carry the theater within oneself, is also a key aspect of the potential, they will say, of the human potential in its current dynamic. No? And I think this is also, sorry, I just lost. And I think this is also fundamental to understand the work of Santiago Cirujeda, but also the capacity that he had done as an individual to transform ideas of the collective when he, for instance, worked relentlessly questioning his immediate context, from a table in his kitchen, from the apartment of his friend Pepe, from the outline of a household that will have its room dispersed in an empty neighbor, through the empty rooms of his neighbor's flat. Santiago Cirujeda and Recetas Urbanas architecture is first and foremost an architecture of complicity. An architecture that, in addition to his neighbors nowadays, involve all kinds of volunteers, social workers, artists, architects, teachers, cultural agents, lawyers, community leaders, disenchanted individuals, members of unrepresented community, who all together compose what he calls the Loonies Army. And they all together generate a map of affection that for me is the ultimate strategy for subversion. Thank you very much.